Welcome to the Roofing Roundtable podcast, hosted by David Griggs, the owner of Granada Roofing. In this podcast, we dive deep into the world of roofing with a particular focus on premium roofing and exterior product applications. Now it's time for the latest episode of the Roofing Roundtable, a Frito Nation production coming to you from the Caddo Office's Reimagined studio.
We're back with another episode of the Roofing Roundtable with David Griggs, Granada Roofing. And I just want to make this about me real quick, David, because being in this business, I get to talk to a lot of people. I get to experience a lot of things I wouldn't experience. I get to learn a lot of things I wouldn't have learned if I wasn't able to talk to people like you. One of the things I've learned and one of the things that I've changed about the way I do my personal business is there are certain things that you don't want to scrimp on, you don't want to negotiate, you don't want to save money on. And I'm not saying that spending the most money is always the best thing to do.
Correct.
But there are certain things, and roofing is one of them. When I think about it, I think, okay, how often do I get a new roof?
Once every 15 years, once every 10 years, depending on how lucky you get with storms and everything.
So when I get a new roof, money's not going to be the issue for me. I want to get it done by someone that I completely trust, that I know stands behind their work.
Yep.
And someone that I'm comfortable that knows their product.
Yeah. And so this is where, as a roofing company, we are always selling trust. So yes, we have all of our credentials. You know, we don't just have those because we want to come across and look like, hey, look at us. We have all these credentials. We have to have those credentials because a lot of homeowners, if they're not listening to like this podcast, if they don't know my reputation in the community and the amount of time that I spend educating myself and continuously learning, you as the consumer, you don't know what is a good roofing system, what's a bad roofing system. You don't even know all the ways that roofers cut corners on a regular basis. I would say almost every single roof I do, for the most part, it's got at least 2 layers of felt. Look, at the end of the day, I think it's stealing that roofing companies do that if they're not taking a roof down to the decking and it's an insurance claim, because the insurance company's paying for that. They're paying me, the roofer, to take it down to the decking. So if I'm not doing that and I'm just putting felt over felt, well, what do you think I'm doing? I'm probably saving some money on labor. I'm saving a little bit of money on material. And I'm not saying me, I'm talking that, but I'm talking as like in other roofing companies. They're doing those things. And that's the trust factor, that if you are not educated on what's on your roof, and let's be honest, a lot of people think roofing's boring. That's like saying if we started a podcast on foundation, when do you ever need to get your foundation done? Maybe once every 40 years if you live in a area where the ground's moving all the time. So whenever we are talking about all these different things, we are not just trying to sell that we know what we're doing, but it's the trust factor that you can know that if you get a Granada roofing system, it's going to be done the right way.
And I think, and I know this from experience, because for years and years, maybe decades, I was doing it wrong. Because when I would get certain things done to my house, granite countertops or whatever, I would look for the low bid.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly what changed my perspective, but now when I talk to people, the price is one of the last things I really consider. It's behind, do I have a good feeling about the contractor?
Yeah.
And heck, to be honest with you, the more I trust you, the less I need to know about what you're doing to my roof.
I love that. You said that perfectly. And I always think that there's a couple different kinds of clients that I deal with. Yes, we deal with clients that, man, they don't have, even $5,000 sitting around for their deductible. And they're always worried about like, well, man, if a hailstorm hit, how am I supposed to do this? Here's the thing though. And then on the flip side, we get the clients who are kind of more with your mentality where they're like, you know what, like I have to, you have to pay your deductible legally. So if I'm going to have to pay my deductible, I want the best roofing system on there, and you just want to be able to pick someone that you know that you trust who's going to do it, because you don't need to know everything about roofing. It's just like whenever we're training realtors, I don't need you to know everything about a roof. I need you to know basic knowledge to at least sound like you know what you're talking about in front of a client, and then defer to the expert. And that's what I love. I love the clients who can just say, David, I trust you. This is what you say we're doing. I know you're not going to pull a fast one. I know you're not trying to skimp out and save money here and there. And you're honest with me about what's going on and explaining everything to me.
And that's something that, this is a little selfish of me, but that's why I think the podcast is so important.
Yes.
Because to me as a consumer, if you're willing to give me free advice, that means that you're very confident in not only your knowledge, but you're very confident in the work that you do.
Yes.
That, hey, if I'm not going to take the free advice or if I'm not going to use you, that's my issue.
Yep.
It's not going to be because of you.
Yeah. And in my industry, whenever you go cheap, and trust me, I will never be the cheapest person. If you want to find cheap, you can literally call a million companies and you will get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And it just keeps going down, 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 down. I usually think there's the low guy, there's the high guy, and there's the guy in the middle. I usually think the guy in the middle, he usually knows what he's doing because he's got his pricing down. He knows what you can afford, so he knows what kind of material he needs to use to fit that budget, because that's also important. Just because you can't put a Rolls Royce on someone's house when they don't have money for a Rolls Royce. But how do I put you in a really great system that's going to meet that budget that maybe you wouldn't get with the low bid, or maybe the high bid is just overinflating things because they're just marketing it up like crazy?
Let me ask you this. This is a very uneducated question.
I love it. No, those are the best.
But with deductibles, isn't everyone pretty much paying the same out of their pocket? Or what are the differences in?
So that is something where, as a consumer, you should know what your deductible is on in very particular, a hail claim. A hail claim versus anything else. And I'm not trying to talk insurance because I'm not, legally licensed to talk insurance policy. Just basic general knowledge. You should know what your deductible is. So if a hailstorm, for example, were to just smash your house tomorrow, and I'll make up a number. It's a $5,000 deductible. You legally have to pay that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if you have to pay that, why would you not try to get the best person working on your roof?
Exactly.
Why would you try to figure out a way how to somehow profit off of the roof system? Like, if you were dealing with the insurance company, why would you not take advantage? My mind's blown right now. I can't even come up with the words because I deal with it on a regular basis. That's the number one thing people say to me. We get talking, everything that's going great, and then the person goes, "But David, what about my deductible?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What about your deductible? Okay, yes. Do you know what it is? Yes, you have to pay it. Legally, you have to pay it. It's a felony for you. It's a felony for me if someone's trying to coerce to commit insurance fraud. And I won't go down that route with anybody."
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people, when they start talking about insurance claims, okay, how can I profit off this?
Yeah, that goes back to honesty and trust. If you literally have a contractor who comes to your house and they're trying to figure out a way to somehow finagle the numbers where you don't have to pay your deductible, do you really trust them to be on your roof? Do you really trust that what do you think they're going to do, Frito? They're going to get on your roof and they're going to look for a way that they can somehow make up or recoup some of that money that they quote unquote gave you for free. And they're going to use cheap product. They're going to do layovers. And I'm not saying that every company that does that, I've never done it, so I'm just throwing out stuff out there that I think is happening in the industry. I would never do it.
And that's something that I don't know for me, whether it's come from, experience or just being able to talk to people like you on a regular basis. But that's something to me that's obvious now, that if you're dealing with someone who's willing to cut corners somewhere else, well, they're probably going to be willing to cut corners with you.
Exactly.
And that's like that in many walks of life.
Yeah, that goes with anything.
If you're with a spouse who's convinced that you're cheating on them, there's probably a good chance that she may be cheating on you too.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah. One finger pointed at you, three fingers pointed back at me.
Yeah.
But there are definitely things that I just would not now ever skimp on.
Yeah. Well, and also too, when it comes to like that trust factor, I do my very best to, as I'm explaining things to clients, especially if we're going over your claim documents, especially if we're talking about the roofing system. And a lot of homeowners don't know what underlayment is. They don't know what ice and water shield is. They don't know all these. They don't even know the different brands. They just know at the end of the day, it looks pretty. But that's where creating the podcast, doing Facebook posts, I'm always just doing as much as I can to spread good information, because I think there's a lot of people that put bad information. Or no, let me say this. You don't ever hear about people who do bad work or eat deductibles, you don't hear them on podcasts. You don't hear them out teaching realtors because
They're not being held accountable.
they're hiding behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And they're going to go behind the curtain and they're going to say, well, we can do this over here. You just can't tell anybody. I don't know. I don't deal with people like that. But part of all this trust with the credentials and everything, and it's not there to look cool. It's not there to say, hey, look at all these credentials I have. It's there because I am selling you trust. And I want everyone to trust that if you're getting a Granada roofing system, we are going to do the very best for what you can afford to put on that house.
And I think you and I are a lot alike. When I hear people say that, I don't want people talking behind my back.
Yeah.
I want people talking about me behind my back because I want them saying great things behind my back.
Yes.
And I think that's something that is very important. And they can't be saying great things about you if they don't have great things to say about you.
Yeah, and you know what? It's okay if you make a mistake. No one's perfect. This is construction. If something were to ever happen, you can know that I'm going to stand behind my word, and heaven forbid there was a leak in a house after we did a job or whatever, right? You can trust that I'm going to go there and I'm going to do everything in my power to fix that, make it right. If I've got to rip off that portion of the house to get that right, I'm going to do it because that goes back to trust, that goes back to honesty, that goes back to integrity.
And as a matter of fact, there's plenty of situations where that's where you earn the most trust.
Yeah.
Is how you handle a mistake or an unfortunate situation.
Yeah. And all these things are learning experiences. So if we do come across a problem or, I think I have so many rebuttals for all the different crazy things that I hear from homeowners because I hear them on such a regular basis that I've actually kind of gotten to the point now where I'm like, there's no reason to even talk about it. This is what we're doing. Trust me. Let's do it. Let me go over all the details with you. And if you have questions, let's go over those detailed questions now. And that's part of like this podcast. I want those questions to come out and let's address some of these questions so that you can, as the consumer, go listen to episode 10 and you can get that addressed and it makes sense to you what I'm talking about because it's a lot of information.
See, that's important to you. What's important to me that people get across is whether you're listening to all these episodes or just one of them.
Yes.
That you get the feeling and you get comfortable enough with David.
Yes.
To understand he's not going to do you wrong.
Correct. And if something, and even for any of my sales guys, we talk about trust all the time. We talk about integrity all the time. Whether it's me, one of my guys, we're always going to do right. If something ever happened, we're going to fix it. We're going to make it right. And I appreciate everyone listening so that we can build great content for the community. And if we can help anyone, let me know. Let's build something beautiful together.